All right, then I'll do it.
To be frank, it didn't go so well.
And you can't even play the piano, right, Helen? It's impossible because you don't have the talent or the money.
Well then, I poured my soul into playing.
What?
Trouble Busters!
Now what kind of shoddy cooking is this?
This is delicious, Mrs. Smith. Everybody in the family loves this.
Get your ass back in the kitchen and make some proper food.
I'm sorry, ma'am. There was a kindergarten gathering today and...
That's just your own inconvenience, ain't it? No matter what I had to do during the day, I've never served my family shoddy cooking.
But it's delicious.
That's not the damn point. I'm confirming your feelings and responsibilities as a wife.
My name is Helen. I'm 30 years old and a housewife with one daughter in kindergarten. I got married right after graduating from junior college, so it's been 7 years already. My husband Mark is very kind and gentle. His mother, though, on the other hand, Mrs. Smith lost her husband early when he passed at the age of 64, so she's currently living with us.
Did you know that a new restaurant opened in front of the station, sweetie?
Ah, I thought something was new.
Shall we go now?
Right now, but it's a bit of a waste of money, don't you think?
It's all on me today, dear.
Is it all right, Mom?
Sure, 2 people is nothing.
2 people? But there's 3 of us right now.
What? But you aren't going, right, Helen?
Huh? What are you saying? If we were going as a family, I'd probably take Helen with us too.
But she said she didn't want to go.
What? She did not say that. Don't be ridiculous, Mom.
I'm not being ridiculous, Mark. Helen, you aren't coming with us, are you?
What? Oh, no, ma'am. I'll pass for today.
You see?
But that way of asking her is really suspicious. If she doesn't go, I won't either. You can go on your own, Mom.
But alone is boring.
Another thing she does is one-up me at every given opportunity. For example,
It's been a while since we went shopping as a family, huh?
you've been busy with work lately after all.
I'm sorry for putting so much pressure on you, Helen.
Oh, Mark, I feel no pressure at all. Thank you as always.
By the way, where'd Mom go?
Huh? Oh.
At that moment, Mrs. Smith was being talked to by the host of an event that was being held on the first floor. Apparently, a street piano event was being held that day.
Mom, what are you doing?
She asked me if I wanted to try playing the piano.
Huh? You'll embarrass yourself. Don't do it.
Oh, nonsense, Mark. There was a time when I was young that I was learning the piano, you know?
What?
All right, then I'll do it.
She said as she sat down at the piano. She started playing. To be frank, it didn't go so well. She barely managed to play through one song. But Mrs. Smith, who had a habit of one-upping me...
And you can't even play the piano, right, Helen? It's impossible because you don't have the talent or the money.
What?
How can you say such a thing?
Because it's true, isn't it?
My own mother-in-law constantly looks down on me. When it came to myself, I could stand it still, but honestly, I had had enough when she said something about my parents and the life they gave me. Mark later apologized to me on her behalf, but I couldn't forget my feelings of that day. Unforgivable.
Troublebusters, initiate.
Mrs. Smith, I have some concerns.
Can't help ya.
No, I haven't even said anything yet.
The hell do you want? Disgusting.
Actually, I'm thinking of starting to play the piano.
Huh? You definitely don't have the time for that nonsense.
I suppose so, but...
Look, you have housework to do and a lovely daughter to take care of. You don't have time to worry about stupid things like that. Besides, buying a piano will only be a waste of space and money. Just give it up.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm home.
Mrs. Smith, what's going on here?
I bought it. I'm thinking of starting to play the piano.
Amazing.
It's impossible for you because you have no talent. I can improve quickly because I can learn the basics.
Wasn't it expensive?
I still had some money that Henry left, and if I could pay the rest with my pension, I should manage.
Thank you very much.
What the? I will not lend it to you, Helen.
I thought not. It was exactly as I expected. The desire to one-up me would overpower her, and so buying a piano would be a good idea. And that's exactly what I planned. From then on, my mother-in-law practiced for about a month. Then...
Helen, I was thinking about having a recital soon.
Oh, wow.
Be a lamb and contact my relatives and invite them over, would you?
Yes, ma'am. This was also part of the plan. Considering her boastful personality, she should want to reveal her achievements before an audience, and that's exactly what happened. I contacted a bunch of my relatives and gave them all the necessary details. And then fast forward 1 week. Today is the day of the recital.
Thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. I recently started playing the piano, so please enjoy the playing.
Mrs. Smith then started playing right away. However, it's not like you can become any better at the piano in just a single month. An ensemble of wrong notes, chaotic rhythm, and intermittent pauses made the performance a huge failure. After the recital ended, the atmosphere became strained to a breaking point. My mother-in-law sensed this and tried to blame me for this failure.
I haven't been feeling the groove today, it seems.
Is that so?
Miss Helen, you should play too. Huh? Oh yes, you're interested in playing the piano, right?
Well, sure.
I'll lend it to you just for today. See you play it.
Well then, I poured my soul into my playing.
What the?
People around me were amazed at how good I was.
Wait a minute. Why? How do you play the piano?
There was a time when I used to play the piano.
What? Why didn't you tell me?
I got married to Mark immediately after graduating, so I thought I wouldn't have anything to do with it anymore.
Plus, you're pretty much a master of the piano.
I was aiming to become a professional after all.
What?
Both my high school and my junior college were schools that were oriented in that direction.
No shot. The schools you went to were probably just a rural school no one ever heard of, right?
When it comes to rural schools, yes, it was in the countryside, but it is famous, specializing in music.
You're probably just having delusions of grandeur.
Is that so, ma'am? It's called the Travis McDavid Academy of Music.
What? You went to TMAM? What?
When my relative Melanie Thompson heard the name of my junior college, she exclaimed in surprise. Melanie is apparently pretty knowledgeable about music, and she knew that the Travis McDavid Academy of Music was a top-notch music school, too. She couldn't help but raise her voice, and she went on to explain to Mrs. Smith just how amazing the school was.
It's only slightly famous locally, though, right?
What are you saying, Auntie?
Yeah?
Travis McDavid Academy of Music is a world-famous school.
No way.
People from all over the world who want to join Travis McDavid Academy of Music go there, you see.
Oh, really? But just getting in isn't enough.
Auntie, I think you need a brain bath. You don't realize how difficult it is to get in.
Huh?
It's an extremely prestigious school with an admission rate of over 50.
Is that so? But I've never heard of it. How could I have known?
If you're also trying to start playing the piano, I think you ought to know about TMAM at least.
I'm not particularly interested.
By the way, Mrs. Smith, when you started playing the piano, did you find a particular composer you like?
Oh yeah. I've really been into Claire Huangxi lately. The sound that she creates with the piano are wonderful.
Aha, Claire Huangxi. She's rather good after all.
Why the hell are you talking like you're condescending to her? You don't even come close to her skill.
That may certainly be true, but do you realize she also went to study at the Travis McDavid Academy of Music, right?
What?
Moreover, she's my junior by 1 year.
What?
Moreover, I was teaching Claire how to play.
What?
She was originally going to play a different instrument, but when I taught her how to play the piano, she improved tremendously quickly, and now she's so famous worldwide.
Lies. I won't fall for such lies.
It's not a lie, Mrs. Smith. We keep in touch often.
Huh?
Have a look at this. I showed her my DMs exchanged with Claire. They were conversations about daily life, but there were also photos of her face taken with friends and at concerts she performed at overseas. And that was enough evidence to support my friendship with her.
So it's true then.
Mrs. Smith, if you want to meet Claire, just let me know. I'll introduce you to her.
It's fine, Helen.
It's amazing that you're friends with the Claire Huangxi. Do you know Claire too, Melanie? I do. Didn't she recently win an award? She often appears on music shows and podcasts too.
Seriously, I didn't think she would become so famous.
It's been a while since I became related to you, Helen, but I never thought you were such an amazing person.
I'm not amazing, darling. I'm just a housewife. I agree.
Huh?
The fact that you graduated from such a famous school doesn't matter. You're still a housewife with nothing to do. You probably just gave up along the way, didn't you?
Mom, that's not true.
Mark!
At that time, Helen was receiving offers from overseas.
What?
But she decided to marry me, so she gave up on her career and became a housewife.
How could you not have told me?
Was there really any need, though?
What?
Would things be any different if I did tell you?
Well...
Don't tell me you're thinking along the lines of, if I'd known she was so talented, I wouldn't have competed with her.
No, listen.
That's definitely ridiculous now, isn't it?
It's all right, Mark. Our relatives are here with us today, so let's have some fun.
Well, if you say so, Helen.
Since our relatives were here that day, I convinced Mark to leave it for a while. I thought this would calm everyone down for a while. I did kind of steal the spotlight from Mrs. Smith big time, but I thought her complete loss against me, whom she hated, would probably shut her up for a while. How about some lunch, everyone? A feast is prepared in the next room.
What is this cooking?
Huh?
It just doesn't look delicious from the looks of it.
What? Moreover, it was difficult because I had to make a large amount for all 12 people present, and I wanted them to all enjoy it, so I arranged the food well upon the places. But then Mrs. Smith, with the curveball of the century, it seems like she's trying to vent her anger over the piano incident right here, right now.
Isn't there a more beautiful way to arrange it all?
Is that so, Auntie? It looks really delicious to me, though. Thank you. I'll take a bite. Wow, this is insanely delicious.
What?
Your cooking's better than most too, Helen. I'm falling for you for real.
Just call me the best copycat in the world, though.
Copied it from whom?
My mother.
But Aunt Helen must be an amazing cook then.
She does have her own cooking class, so yeah, I sure hope so.
Is that so?
And just for the sake of it, it's a locally famous cooking class.
Wow. By the way, which cooking class is it?
It's called YOLO cooking, actually.
What the hell?
What's wrong?
By YOLO cooking, you mean that famous one?
I'm not sure what you mean by famous, but Mom does often get interviewed on TV and for magazines.
I know it all too well. It was featured on a national TV just the other day.
What?
Super famous, I dare say.
No way.
I mean, I guess.
I don't know much about it, though, because it's what my mom does.
But that's literally it. A famous cooking class. You, Helen, a professional musician and the daughter of a nation-famous chef. I applaud you, Mark, my guy. You found a rare gem.
Hey, could you wait a minute? The story moved so fast that I couldn't keep up.
What's wrong, Mrs. Smith?
Your family, there's no way that they're that famous. The house, such a small, infested house in the countryside.
My mother's a bit sickly by nature, so she wanted to live in a rural area with clean air, so we bought a house away from the city.
Is that so? But it's still so strange. If you're that famous and you have money, there's no reason for your house to be so filthy, and yet it's absolutely ridiculous.
That house isn't particularly filthy. It was originally like that.
Huh?
My father liked buying older houses because he thought they had a more emotional feel to them.
Emotional? However, my family is not rich, Mrs. Smith. I thought so. It was a lie after all.
My mom runs her cooking class by herself. She cannot have many students. That's why we only recruit one new person each year.
Sounds better if you say it like that. In the end, only one person can come in the end, right?
That instant, darling Melanie sent out a rescue boat once again. Auntie, what are you talking about?
Huh?
There are apparently a lot of people who want to join YOLO cooking. It was featured on national TV the other day after all.
What?
But not many people seem to be able to take the class. Wait a minute. Are you familiar with the cooking expert, Madam Hughes, who's been appearing on TV lately?
Madam Hughes?
Ah, the woman who published an entire book on fried chicken recipes? That's the one. She was originally from YOLO Cooking.
What? My word, Melanie, you know so much.
I just watch national television all the time.
I've tried to make her most popular fried chicken recipe for everyone today.
So in other words, the fried chicken that Madam Hughes makes is something
that my mother taught her. I've met her several times in the past, but she always talked about Mom's fried chicken passionately.
Amazing! That must be so nice to hear.
The moment I mentioned it, all my relatives started competing to get the food I made, and it all disappeared in an instant. When Mrs. Smith was confronted with the truth, her face turned red with frustration. Helen, I have the spotlight for today. You just stole it from me.
That was not my intention, ma'am.
I don't want to hear any excuses. You were just trying to ensnare me.
Mrs. Smith, please remember, you got me to play the piano. And you complained about how the food didn't look good just by the mere looks of it. You never even had a bite yet.
Well, sure.
If it weren't for that, Melanie wouldn't have revealed all that information, so I think things would have ended without incident, don't you think?
No, but still, since you're the wife in the family, you have to stand up for me.
Mom, that's enough.
Mark?
I've been married for several years now, and I've always felt bad for Helen.
Why?
Even though she actually had so much talent and promise, I fear she flat out squandered that talent just to marry me.
That's not true, honey. I'm so happy to be married to you.
Thank you, Helen. I feel so relieved when you say so. That's why I think we have to cherish you so much. And yet, Mom...
What?
Your attitude towards Helen? That's disgraceful!
I just try to educate her as a wife.
You never felt that way at all, did you, though?
What?
I've been watching you behave around Helen recently. Each time, all I could ever do was apologize to Helen.
No, listen, please.
But that ends now.
What?
I simply cannot let anyone hurt my Helen, whom I love so much.
What do you mean?
We're stopping living together. Mom, I want you to leave this house.
What?
This is the house I bought, and I want you to leave it.
Mark, you're going to abandon your biological mother?
I'm not abandoning you. However, your attitude towards Helen will only make her feel uncomfortable in her own home.
Well, there's no reason to kick your darling mother out. What do you think parents are, honestly?
I'll repeat those words verbatim. What do you think of me, Mom?
What? You're my son, right? You're my precious son.
In that case, can't you take good care of the wife that your precious son has chosen to spend his life with?
Well,
With that being said, please get out. I'll find you a place to live, but leave as soon as we find a good place.
No, please.
The fact that Mark was thinking about me so much made me realize how glad I was to have chosen this person as my one and only love of my life. Mrs. Smith wouldn't give up and asked me for help.
Helen, darling, I never treated you maliciously, did I?
Mrs. Smith, I've actually heard this topic from Mark many times.
What?
How about we stop living together with my mother? That's what he asked me.
No way.
And I was against it each time.
Huh?
I objected every time, saying that I just have to put up with it and that it would be okay in the end.
Well then. However,
You said something to me the other day at the street piano event at the mall. You can insult me as much as you like, Mrs. Smith. However, I absolutely cannot tolerate my parents being chastised.
no, dear. I didn't chastise them. I didn't. I just meant that it was a wonderful family living in the great outdoors.
Isn't that a bit unreasonable?
I'm serious. As a result of that, they were able to raise a daughter who could go to a famous music school, right?
We only know that because Melanie told us all about that earlier, and up until then, you had thought of me as an incompetent woman with no talent or money, didn't you?
I never dreamed of you that way.
But you said so that fateful day, for crying out loud.
No, listen.
I think the feelings you conveyed at the time were the true feelings you held within yourself, Mrs. Smith. And honestly, I think it'll be very difficult to live with such a person.
No, I've changed now, please.
You've changed, you haven't changed, doesn't matter. Let's live apart for now. I think that way you can see the good in each other.
No, please.
Mrs. Smith was in complete shutdown mode now. However, I think it can't be helped because she planted those seeds of her karma herself. Later on, she moved into a one-room, one-kitchen apartment that Mark had found for her. Although she resisted until the very end, she was left with no other choice and left reluctantly. Now that she's gone, our home is much calmer, and the stress that once was is now nowhere to be found. Trouble Busters.